If you've ever wondered whether penile traction therapy is real medicine or just another overhyped promise, the clinical evidence gives a surprisingly clear answer. This is one of the few non-surgical approaches in men's sexual health that has been studied across more than 15 peer-reviewed trials involving over 1,000 patients, and the findings keep pointing in the same direction. Penile traction therapy can produce measurable length gains when it's used correctly and consistently. So what does works actually mean here? In clinical terms, it means documented structural change, not a temporary effect and not wishful thinking. Across published studies, penile traction therapy has produced average length gains in the range of 1.3 to 2.3 centimeters, or about half an inch to just under an inch, over 3 to 6 months of daily use. The strongest summary of that evidence came in 2023, when Almsaoud, Safar, and Al-Shahrani published a systematic review and meta-analysis in Translational Andrology and Urology. Looking across 12 pooled studies, they calculated a weighted mean length gain of 1.9 centimeters. That matters, because meta-analyses sit at the top of the evidence hierarchy. And it's not just pooled data. Individual clinical trials tell the same story. In a randomized controlled trial published by Toussi and colleagues in 2021, men in the traction group gained 1.6 centimeters compared with just 0.3 centimeters in the control group. That difference was statistically significant, which is exactly what you want to see when asking whether a device is doing the work or whether the result could just be random variation. Even more encouraging, 87% of participants said they would repeat the therapy, and 93% said they would recommend it. Earlier studies support that same pattern. Gontero and colleagues reported a mean gain of 1.3 centimeters. Nikoobakht and colleagues found a 1.7 centimeter gain in both flaccid and stretched length measurements. In Peyronie's disease research, Levine and colleagues showed that traction therapy could help reduce curvature while preserving length. And in the broader 2023 meta-analysis, the data also showed a 27% mean curvature improvement and an 82% adherence rate, suggesting that most men were able to stay with the treatment long enough to see meaningful outcomes. Now, none of this means penile traction therapy is magic. The results depend heavily on protocol and adherence. Most of the evidence is based on daily wear of about 4 to 6 hours per day over 3 to 6 months. That's a real commitment. If someone uses a device inconsistently, cuts the wear time in half, or quits after a few weeks, the clinical evidence doesn't support expecting the same outcomes. This is more like physical therapy than a quick fix. Consistency is the treatment. The biological reason traction can work is mechanotransduction, the cellular response to mechanical force. When calibrated tension is applied to tissue over time, cells respond by remodeling and generating structural change. In plain language, the body adapts to sustained mechanical loading. That's why researchers describe these gains as tissue elongation, not temporary swelling. It's also why traction therapy is fundamentally different from pumps, pills, or manual exercises. Pumps can create short-term engorgement, but that effect fades. Supplements have not produced permanent length gains in randomized trials. Traction therapy is the method with the clinical record behind it. Safety matters too, especially in a category filled with exaggerated claims. Across the published literature, no serious adverse events have been reported. Mild and temporary side effects, things like minor discomfort or skin irritation, show up in roughly 11.2 to 14.4% of participants. That doesn't mean zero risk, but it does suggest a favorable safety profile when medically designed devices are used correctly. And that brings us to device quality. SizeGenetics is part of the original Danamedic lineage from Denmark, the company behind the modern traction category since 1994. Danamedic was founded in 1988, and Dr. Jørn Agasiana, a plastic surgeon and co-inventor, helped establish the traction mechanism that shaped the category. Devices in this lineage are FDA-registered medical devices, and that regulatory distinction matters because proper traction therapy depends on calibrated, controlled force, not improvised stretching. So, does penile traction therapy really work? Based on the current clinical evidence, yes, for length gains and in some cases curvature improvement, provided the device is legitimate and the protocol is followed. The honest expectation is not overnight transformation. It's measurable progress, backed by studies, over months of disciplined use. If you're evaluating your options, that's the takeaway to hold on to. Ignore the hype, follow the evidence, and choose a medically grounded traction device with a real clinical pedigree.